We start opening prayers. Ma non ko dan nyam be sim chen tam je de wa dan den dong ha dan ra nyu do la na me ba yang da ba do be san jo ren bo je do ba so.
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I don't see the mandala offering, but as if the ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers, it is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the four continents, and the sun and the moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings. Good evening. I'm not so trained. Kacang controlling ma rogodu shudante kawan usena. Shudan tatang jake ke temdi nan nishe subject risha. Solkarwa. Solkate ta solkandela na so ti ati doje jono ke tingo ke suma tamjela ni tatoma. Maya tende jechi. Tela tambo ngote ne tengo gyojin do.
When I say na Koran ke young na tin go jo te yo ma te si so mo te sa pa se. Ade torma te mo yi ki je de zhe yin ba la na ba te ni no ze da gui tam je be sha cha. De se. Go yo ro wa. En torma te la tam bon go jo si yin be kap su. Ah no ze de ge don na da ni mo ha jang tu bo ji. Sem je tam je la je. 세벨레가 누부서 코너 장도니 된저거라 이렇게 좋아তে 개발레가 그거 요 말에 되는데 잡고게 어 얼마다 니스면 봤으니 때문에 다지 노제 저거 조건에서 뭐 하자도서 니 이제 되잖아 생각하면 그게 또 아까 저도 소마도 좀 반출 봤어 그거 여러 가지 이제 담본 거를 이거 요요 그게 좀 진짜
this gosho gi gimchen karena gosho sna
야
oi
이거 요 하면
ale ina kare gosho yore di sorka di gosho yore kare dorma di gosho yore
Yo yorosota pala go figo yorosata labimba. Go yosina dying. Ya pegan go de tada.
ale gosho tenga tike henta is rutito all right so we continue with teachings from before. And so we continue with the petition, which in the Chinese sadhana is on page 28. In the English New Sadhana, it's on page 39. So the petition is the offering made to the protectors of the Vajrakiliya mandala. And so in the beginning, actually, it starts out with a summoning and drawing in. So that's the first part, starting with Namo. And that actually is not in the main part of the text, but Rinpoche added that here. And so how we imagine here when we draw in is that so the Dharma has a nectar-like essence, and so then all the harm doers and so forth appear in the form of flesh, blood, and bones, and then drawn in and dissolved into the Dharma. So these are all those harm doers and evil spirits and obstructors and those with very thick, very strong afflictive emotions. And so these beings cannot be tamed through peaceful activities, and they only engage in violent activities. So therefore, they have to be subdued through wrathful activities. So this is the wrathful activity drawing them in the form of flesh and blood, which then is consecrated and dissolved into the Dharma, and then that Dharma is made as an offering to the protectors.
Go yogan za. That's any some ba. Mesena no zi cho yosen da. Temi ba ye ke sem dan din ba. Ting ang ning go yose ge yore ma to dan sem go gon go yose yo ma. Dan sem go ni se na te yonga yo ma re. Sangha ke tata che tapu ko le se na yang te che sem temi ba ye. Sem ji ting ang ni se yore wa. Tang pa ho te ta ni su me pe to re te te che mi pa ye ka. Chong do ya re. Ni ti ji te ne to ma ta. Ngo da gwe ji cha la na ban do yong long ju sam je ma ja te pe te na sa pon do wa. E na ji cha so sam ne te ne ti ji lo on wa ho son do wa. On wa hon te yang ta che tang ke san je ko son to son de te. Yang kap tho man da la te ne Sile Mandava Yungo Yoru, and the caps and at Taji Chupas Slab Churto Indu, Jindo Yon Namka Kang, I rob you for some so hungry he does the Yoris and the Lapa Yorba. The Mambo Periata. Akeko Ro, Trova, you Nuban Puson so Payuba. Any homes that you take it at the last time I walk at your road, due to some main packet, Yihiji Dutz. Yihiji Dutzinagi, Yihiji Dutzinata, new Mombaso to the main Davajewa, or Tender Charles on some Basigo.
So then after the summoning and drawing in, then is the Zahung Bam mantra, which represents this merging into non-duality. So actually the way in which those harm doers are summoned is through the four immeasurables, through the mind of the four immeasurables, and not with an aggressive mind of anger. Actually, with such a mind of anger, they couldn't even be drawn in. So in the secret mantra, when one engages in the wrathful enlightened activities, actually they are performed from within a state of the four immeasurables. So the Zahung Bamhu represent the meaning of non-duality, also the four immeasurables. And then after that, it says then the essence of the flesh and blood of enemies and obstructors appears as inconceivable enjoyments of desirable sense objects. So that is quite clear. So visualize in this way. And then we recite Om Ahung 3 times. Generally speaking, the Om Ahung represent the Buddha's enlightened body, speech, and mind. But sometimes, depending on the circumstance, it represents different things. So depending on the activity that is being performed. And so here in this context of the wrathful activity where an offering is being made and consecrated. So here Amahung means like multiplying, increasing. So the offering substances are increased. And means that these offering substances become of perfect flavor and taste, a perfect offering. And then Hung then transforms this perfect ordinary offering into an extraordinary offering. So then these extraordinary flavors and tastes of the offering are transformed into a wisdom nectar. So basically, then in the end, the Amahung consecrate the Dharma so that it becomes endowed with the power, or it becomes like a medicine that has the power to heal all afflictive emotions. Here. There's no sound. Oh, okay.
Pancham tene person juni de yo ba yin ba. Tene tata yanja jin riyon ba kapso de tang chikpa ri ma to yang te tang manda wa ke person yin ba ji jin rin ba tende ma ri. Jin ko ka nang la tende sen chakcham tene person juni de kasan ye kong de la ba ri ba. Tena yo reis. Tene te jini ta ma jin rin tang kyupa tang tuipa Tuzo de la mesa tan de che gosa mare yega na dali ti na yere teni to ma bria ta to ma forsa ji su teni chne choya tende ka po so ma de so na te chi teni ti ji ni cho le ko yorwa.
So then after that, there's an invitation that's also quite clear in the text. It won't require any explanation. So basically, when we are doing the invitation, we are inviting the 12 Vajrakiliya protectors that are actually already in the mandala, in the spaces in between. We have visualized them before. So now when we invite them again, it's still the same 12 protectors. They are not some different protectors. They're still the same 12 Vajrakiliya protectors, which are already in the mandala. And we spoke about them the other day already. So then after the invitation, then we make the offering, and then we offer praise, which is also quite clear. And then so then the Dharma is being offered, and after having offered the Dharma, then we request, or we entrust their protectors to perform the enlightened activities. So that's the offering to the Dharma protectors. And next we come to the feast offering.
So the Jordan Sumju Soni Parindo, Matende, Dinadana, Tambo and Aranzo, that so they can ready Yona Yang, the Tamji, Shamsak Nutia, Tarimbo Jig Nota, PM Nota, Meto Payment Damaga Nota, Demenigeta, Kapala, Tuba, Sindan Dimba, Tendoga Nota. Teni nang na choze to so yang ta kari hyam yo na to so tam tie je sanga ke zamse ke je dan tun ba xiang a de zeng a la so ba ta nga zo je ku ki da xin to da kari hyam yo na de dam je cham sanga ke zamse ke je dan tun ba ke ti ran yin yin san ba se den de go re song yo le.
So then the talk, the feast offering, in the Chinese sadhana is on page 32. In the English sadhana is on page 43. And so before we begin with the feast offering, first we need to arrange vessel to place our offering substances in. And so it can be a vessel that is a jeweled vessel, or if the vessel has a shape of a lotus flower petals, or it can be a kapala, a skull cup, in an authentic kapala. And then any feast substances are placed into the vessel, and these feast substances must accord with the samaya, the samaya substances prescribed in the secret mantra, so such as the 5 nectars and the 5 meats. And so these can be represented by offerings like cookies or fruit and so on. And so when you arrange these offerings, then you should think that all of these materials are actual samaya substances of the secret mantra.
What the Tambo go to Om Sarvanda Bambu Daya home page, you take a Sang Jan Sujit Wapa, Chotone, take a pa, Zamas over a cheat. Tate Chota Trasa, Chomari, Sanchos, and Jinapse Yapaka Chu. Ha Tamazoyak. Penache Ta Te Yedam Soso la take Le Lasine. Le Lasine ta activity no. The so the Chupas in Laptan, Zamazoya, the Nesike, Lara, and we were. Or the Chu Synapse Yaba, the Nuket, and Pazamazoya, and Ojiri. The Niti talk nothing and what I saw young Rumbo Chinchu Don Damatondi. Tate Meto Pemagongosa. So there. Nam Yeda Pemala Nepa haunting number what Ranga took on your haunting number what is Yopatele Ram Yam comes some sone. The Ram Yam comes some the Yanja Ramle Me Yamle long come chosen. There's some Madapa Ubon Zipa Madanzo Ubo and Simang Zimba Tava Sinjolo and Tipa. That's the Zama Senor. When I send the youngster.
So it begins with the mantra here, Sarvam Dacham Vishya Daya Hung Pet. So here we sprinkle some water, some consecrated nectar water onto the feast materials. And so it's a consecrated water. It's not just any water, but it's especially purified and blessed, the consecrated water that is used for the cleansing. So then also one imagines that when one cleanses, that not each Yidam deity has their own certain enlightened activity. So there are certain deities that appear, that perform the activity of making offerings and bestowing blessings, consecrating, cleansing, and so on. So here the cleansing is performed of the feast materials. And then it begins with the vessel. So the feast substances are the heart of the feast vessel, a jeweled offering tree with 1,000 petals, so which is the lotus. And then from a blazing dark blue whom standing on a sun, moon, and lotus arise Ram, Yam, and Kam. Ram having the nature of fire, Yam of wind, and Kam of water. And again, the offering substances are cleansed, are purified, all impurities are removed. And so basically what these impurities really are the grasping at a concrete reality and the various concepts in our mind. So the distorted view in our mind, and along with all the karmic imprints. So this is what actually is being purified here.
tata renga yavyong ke song lowa ta te kan chung yu sin cho je de cho yang da mikpa la renga yavyong kran yin renga yavyong nima nga zo di de zi sin lap se bu kap su ji yu wa de zi de renga yavyong tu shu wa kran yin cho je yang de ga na yin dang ne se na tata cho la long ju bu kap su long ju za ke cho ke ze de ya ji lai ran yin da chung ken ke te ne gdo pa po ya lai ran yin la 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 times de na yin sin cho ke ka zu mi pa zu che ta bu na wa ba ji ma to ke ma da ta ma wa na wa de wang de shor ma so wa de cho ke ka zu la pa de so yo re wo de cho je de so yang ji ren a ya byong ge ran yin den de yin san ba si go ya de ri lo wa ene ti ji lo wa hong si ta te kha chan ma re de ha ko tor ma san lo se bu ka la pa na yi om jin do yo na ka ka a ye ro pyu bo som cho hong ge yi hi de ji jo se ju de na yin ji sen ne sen lap se ge yo re
So then the feast substances have the nature of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and their consorts, which is then represented by the following syllables. And so as before, we have mentioned before, during the consecration of the nectar, here the substance also had the nature of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and their consorts, which then melted into light and into the nectar. So it's the same here in the context of the feast offering. So when we partake of a feast offering, then actually also the offering substances that we are enjoying, that we are eating, themselves have the nature of the deity. And also we, the practitioners who enjoy the feast offering, are the deity. So it is basically the deity dissolving into the deity. So during the feast offering, one surely must have pure perception. So one engages in the feast offering and partakes of the substances with an entirely pure perception. One should not perceive these substances in an defiled, ordinary way at all. So therefore, we visualize these substances as the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and their consorts. And then after that, again, is Omahung, which we mentioned before when we consecrated the Dharma. So the Om increases, so it becomes vast, the offerings become vast like space, filling space, and A turns them into perfect tastes and flavors, and then Hung turns them into divine wisdom nectar.
Tata Hyodan Sumchi Sobji Pa Tani Sen Hyodan Sumchi Sobji Pa Tani Kama Rinpo Jinduwa Yangon Kondra Gan Se Jaba Kama Rinpo Jindu Ten Ngone Sen Sandro Ke Pechana Na Yo Mare Te Rinpo Che Ke Chotana Jori Namjun Te Yinche Menche Terang Dongo Pungi Pa Yo Mare Aran Su Che Soso Chipo Nyam Nesi Pu Kapsa Techi 초 당분 추부 값이 다다단디는 총추도와 이 값을 초제 노용 남카 강원 추진 나 초발라 산에 삼제마 잡발라 산에 드는 추벌라 라단 라모 망보게 드니 진고고 라초 담별라 양 추바군이 초지제 노용고 롱교도죠 드니 진고고 라초 담지 독지보 차소 삼바드는 몇 바시 보레즈 이게 총 그 정도는 요러와
So then next, so then there's the invitation of the talk, the feast guests, which is as before, there is the field of accumulation, the deities that we invite, while they actually are already indivisible from the mandala deities. So again here, even though we are inviting again, we need to understand that they ultimately are already there and the same. So then it's quite clear the remainder of the talk where we are making a talk offering. And then next there is a restoration that goes until page 38. In English it starts on page 46. So the English version goes until page 52. And so this restoration is actually a supplemental text composed by Jamgon Kongtrul, and it is actually not part of the secret accomplishment sadhana practice, but Gachin Rinpoche had actually added this supplement here, supplement of the restoration. So if you're doing the practice on your own, then it's not absolutely always necessary to recite exactly this restoration, because it's actually not really part of the sadhana. So we are towards the end of the restoration. A minute. I think actually it's a little bit more. Hold on a second. So then at the end of the restoration, then we have invited the Gana Chakra. So we're doing the first offering of the Gana Chakra. So here we imagine that there are inconceivable numbers of offering goddesses presenting the entire mandala of deities with clouds of Gana chakra substances that please the senses and fill up all space. So then during the confession and fulfillment of the Gana chakra, the Samaya substances of the 5 meats, 5 nectars, and so forth should be offered as having the nature of primordial wisdom nectar. Then confessing the all Samaya breakages, faults, and downfalls, request that they be delighted and show love. Di patuloyin be.
Chikani logo.
Kirang tap nang na din sir.
Yeti pas logo mari yeni kurewa.
Not the so many pages with.
Akangwa chapa ka kapso si kangwa chapa kodang sunju sorgana denwa.
Nga inji tap dero.
Ka kapso papa kangwa tan chapa ka kapso changa de chinga la so pa namba. Damche ge zelo ngo iki ge de zira yin de phone. Damche nyamcha ni dong damchi chakwe. Jihin zewe gong de ni cho la me de sang go re si ti kapso te sang go re si.
Dinga na loin ba. Yeah.
Tene ti ja gin choda lewe nge malap kong cho lap chandwa.
Denga ti tap mang dan ti so shoktam dragon men da.
Oh ya ta choda ka kapsa yang go yog do atna. Choda ye pure in deni.
So ti ko khana churinga tokpa ngun la re chela re. So shoktan chik pa mara.
Choda ha mo we.
Nena shoktan ha go re this God. I just have to find the page number.
Choda tata kang kya kan yog den choda yor darwa liberation.
Yes. This
Ngamo chosom tawa sam ta yedan do je yon la so go zon.
Namo dati.
Cheda chu tham
Oh yeah, okay, I think it's page 66 in the English. Is it now? Yeah.
Na ti kapsa go yog si sa te ti chog cha khe ji la. Go yog si go yora chog cha khe ji dang bo ni so so de le ne. Tene ti ga na ta ta ti namo chosom tawa sam sin go yog se ne ti kapsa yang te ha to ma la se pa na yin se ne. Oh, ta no ze dagwe tamje ga la so nam hit cho ti chok ta ta cha chi chung chung ti ga tem ga yo sam ba se o ti kap sun chu pon ka yang te rak ta ti ni te sa ma ti ga na lo go yo si kap ten de go yo re wa
So there is another summoning or summoning and drawing in, and so here we are taking the first part, one part of the feast offerings, and this is where this time the harmful beings and the evil spirits and so forth are being drawn into. So just as before, starting with Namo, and then all the Hamdoras are drawn into this first portion of the Dharma, and then dissolve into that. And so at this point, the shrine master is sprinkling some rakta.
teni ti kap so ta no ze dagwe kan su yo na te tam je la so nam hi te ta ta chok cha chi chung chung ti ga na tem so sam tem cha du teni ta ma te choda se be kapsu tambo te kor ting do wa la tham je ga ta bu tuk dam kon pa bie sin ti la tham je ga che ta tuk dam je ju ko ta bu ngun ju ga le la teni tuk dam ko ju ko na tin jo teni ma ting do wa on be je ko la ya da gwe tam su mara ye home pe se kapsu ta ma se mo se na pro fa te ma chok cha che te ma destroy yes ge yore ti kapse na ta profate kareri sina profate rikpa yishi teni ngone se ne destroy si jote nozi ta Tata ke nu zike te tso ta nyum ba de wa nyum ba de pa liberation da se je te ta rikpa yi hi te cha ga yo ro rikpa yi hi te ne te nyum te pa ni me yi hi jing ang la de se na nyon ro go yo re te ndi ta ta wa te ndo wo ji zo ne te ni ta si ta ta te kong de la pa na yi se yo re.
Mm. So then I've finally found the page. It's on page 56 in the English. So at the end, so then the harmdoers and obstructors and enemies and so on are summoned and drawn into this part of the feast substances, where they then dissolve. And so then there is the liberation offering of the feast substances. And so here the enlightened pledge of the deities is invoked to perform. The deities are invoked to perform wrathful, destructive activities. And what is to be destroyed when stabbing this part of the Tsog offering is, so what destroys is actually the wisdom, awareness, Kila. And what is destroyed, really, the harm doers are the afflictive emotions. And so these are to be liberated, or as in transformed. So it is the wisdom awareness that transforms, destroys afflictive emotions within a state of non-dual primordial wisdom. So here it is such a view that should be sustained.
Teni chodra te prava ke ma tsaung du, teni ti jini min ta rak ta ni yang chan lo gung duwa. Tege ta nu zi da gwek che zupong shatra rupa tu tso te yi shi ji du zi rang yin la jin ji la me. Teni shatra ku kap su, ta te jing ho ka la tso la yang chu pu tsur ta. Baga yu ra shatra te ti jini duwa. Wadang yip ji xe ni nang tena duwa. O te la pa kap su ta ke shatra du zi rang yin tu tso, jing ho la ya. So
then the substance is stabbed, and again one pours amrita and rakta on it, and so then one imagines that these harm doers have become flesh, blood, and bones, which is then turned into wisdom nectar and then offered, serving it to the mouths of the deities in the form of an offering, which in the Chinese sadhana is on page 42 and the English on page 47. So here we then offer to the mouths of the deity those enemies and obstructors in the form of flesh, blood, and bones.
main lab da wat so to ba thamo jam ba kap su ta thap tan shirap sen an da nima dan da ke paro la ni te tham che me ba tang song sam ba se hira ni ti do ba ma lo go lo.
And then next is the repelling, which is in the Chinese on page 43 and in the English on page 58. And the repelling section actually is also not part of the secret accomplishment. It actually is taken from the outer, more elaborate sadhana practice. But Rinpoche also added this as a supplement here. And so during the repelling, then at the end of each line, when we call the various things that need to be repelled, like ill omens and unfavorable conditions and so on. Every time after each line, after each verse, we are clapping with our hands, which is a sign of smashing them. And they are smashed between the palms of method and wisdom, or the sun and the moon. So basically, when you clap your hand, you should think that the negative condition that you are just reciting at that moment is being smashed.
So la long ju sa level ti kap so tata koni la ba na yin je tamar ke se ndu shi pang de je ngune ta ta thom bo je na je ta bo la ran yin na je la la ta bu ta wa ta te me na yang je ta ngu gu je ten de je la sa an na de ne long ju se ta cho long ju se yo bu ka so yang ba me ba wang de shol ma so wa se ne 바요 전시 바요 건강에 되는 신론 교수이고 예예요.
And then after that, we come to the eating of the tzok substances. And so, as we mentioned before, we should not do so with an ordinary state of mind, an ordinary perception. Ideally, if one has a high view, then one would see everything as completely pure and like the deity dissolving into the deity. But even if you're not at that level, you should think that the feast substances that you are eating are samaya substances, siddhi substances. So when you enjoy those feast substances, they should not be eaten with unmindfulness, but from within a state of mindfulness and heedfulness.
근데 다 촐 알론주 세차베 지수 근데 몬람 다비아타 근데 다 지탄스는 도안도 갑스는 나 몬람도 망보로 그래 이나 다티 참나 올라 다탄달라 konten herukai jinko to chojin kolo kowa yesen tena tsai je jin wa ta thol long ju se cha ji sti mo nam de ja ni mo nam de ja cha ta ka su ti ni ti la ma tang re wa
So then normally when after we have eaten the tzok substances, then there are many prayers to be recited. Normally when we do a longer retreat practice, there are various prayers to be recited, but one that represents them all. So instead of all of them, just this one verse can be recited here, which is in English on page 63. Just one line where it says, having turned the Gana Chakra wheel in Heruka's mandala, may I and all other beings become accomplished within one mandala. So this should be recited after you have eaten the substances. And then after that, you come to the offering of the remainders.
ta la ma de ta tan jo ni ya chola long je pu la ma ya ru ne do na ta ta do jin che cham chin ko chi lon cho de pa de so ke chola re re ta sen do ne ru ne teni te chin la sen ta ta na ma jin do om ben za ama de kun da le om ben za ana da u ji ja ya hong pe si du dan ju bong ge du ji ko ne ti du ji teni ti pa ji o bong ge je to la yo ti ji ni teni ti du ji de dan ka cho de chap ji de teni le do ne ma la ma ge ten lo tor ten se teni ti ji ni de ka re se na ta ta me ram ka re je yo se na yakin yang ma kin yong ma je ya wa re nga yang ma tang yong ma teni ti pa ni teni ju ji pa ni te la ma chin la se pa teni da wo ko son do re teni ju ji te ma la ma te lu teni se la ma te chin chin ji la teni ti ji ni ta lan ro de yang chin ring go yo lan ro chin ring be ka so rang ko to le wo zhen ne lan ro tam ke ke ji lan rang gen de teni se chin tang ba sa teni lan ro de so nga chu ta ton ro yin ba na cha ya rung goma sine ya chuban bu sa rung da wori la men rung tu pa te jin ba te sa ko yon da wori den me kwa si ya di la rung tu zo hero ka so ma zu bu chur ti ku be he sa dan je de rung rung ko par sam je yore den de ta ku gu shun jam pe hero ka sina ta jing go zo do je yon ku ser ma zu bu chur ti ko an che 가르세고로 다 인지는 너르베스인다고 되고 남교 거니 다 그거 회사된 제들이 다 진고 스럼 되는 데서 고요상 란동 진리 부갑스 되는 상고 전도와
So then, when you take the remainders, first everyone has enjoyed part of their talk, and then a piece of each talk substance is collected from everyone, and then it's brought into the presence of the guru or the Vajra master, where it is consecrated. And so first there is the mantra Vajra Amrita Ujitaya Hung Pet, which consecrates the remainder. And so then the master then consecrates it with the taking part of the nectar with his ring finger, and then touching his tongue to get some saliva, and then mixing it with his saliva, and then sprinkling that onto the remainders. And so then the remainders are being offered. And so what this represents with the saliva and the consecration is that it represents the nectar that emerges from the union of the male deities, the 5 male Buddhas above, and the female deities and below. So through the union, the nectar stream emerges, and then it becomes a consecrated the blessed substance that the Vajra master then sprinkles onto the remainders. And then after that, then the guests to whom these remainders are being offered are being invited. So for that, you visualize that light radiates from your heart, and this light invites all the guests for those remainders. And then you think that these guests are kind of brought into the presence of Heruka with great awe and respect. So it's like they're nervous in the Heruka's presence, in his brilliance, and then having brought them into this presence, then the remainders is being offered to them. So when the offering guest is a higher being, like a deity, then it becomes an actual offering. And the remainders, the object of the remainder offering, are those kind of beings worthy of the remainders, which in which case we don't call it an offering, but actually an act of generosity. So in this way, the remainder is then dedicated to them.
Tene lama ngoya ke sekte tata chodan yupti chedong nan tenen do te ma lo ne ten jok tene om utita bakcha khae si te kapsa ta masrola kinro yorwa tene tata konto lapa na yin lama ke che mosa ke yorto cholama jine tene korang so pe ga go iran sem tene sene tata jimbat tene sene o kozo ke top song sambasin tene masrola kogoyore.
So the remainder offering is dedicated to the guests of the remainders. So you read toward the end of page 46 in the Chinese, 63 and 4 in the English, and then with the mantra Om Utsita Bakshakhahi, then the remainders are being brought outside. And I think that once they have been received by the guests of those remainders, those objects toward whom we have dedicated their remainders, they think that they have all now received it, and it has satisfied all their needs. It has brought them joy and happiness. So when you think in this way, then you bring out the the remainder.
Tene ti jini tukdam korwa sin tsakiya jinduwa. Ta tukdam korwa te jingo ka la tamje ka. Yedam jingo ka la tsoko tukyu kon. Te tukyu kor, tukdam kor si jite. Ta jingo ka la tso to tso. Ta semjin ka don de che. Ta chile namba ye ka len ze jo ka la ya che jingkon rao se pa. Tende chike tanda rinduwa.
Then next is the arousing of the Samaya. Just the next verse here. And so here we are arousing the mind streams of the mandala deities, which means that we are causing them to arouse their mind, and therefore engage in the various activities, the four enlightened activities, in order to benefit sentient beings.
Chento sene, dorma jengo ya yore chento ku cheto. Da te gurta kando che yena cho nyamle siyon bukab se tirimba lama tang, kor tang, chento tang, tima tang, teni toryon bukyo tang, ti koram te chikpa chikchan re, gurta kando che yena ti koram te, ti sabje te se tendu tawa yise, rogo yore. Da nga cho te chento sene dorma mosa. Chento sene 다 도지 퍼파가 제다 드바 토바가 제
Gone. Gonna tama chesong danda. The chimdo tukdu.
쳔도 도디 제송에
The rang chesong.
당연 망보라 더니 고문도 와
Mambo maybe 10 seconds.
뭐야 다 쳔도 저지 된다리 이제 다 주불라마 주파 토파 망보 요르와 또 쪼근 되니 제 라당 제 라마인 또 쪼게 켈린 담자세 야바 망보 요르와 배나 가당 담보 로지시에 버갑사더니 자가는 거를 빼마다 된달리 게다 프로바크 주파토 로보 망보니 라당 즉 라미 라고 망보 즉 담보 고란솔레티 냠촌다고 세더니 디지니 켈린 담자세 야바 망보발더니 즉 프로바크 템반데 송마스게 인제 손에달리 마음발라 제단데 주바 냠렌스바 그 주바 포탐질 돈틀레 시게 인제 손에달 켈린 담자세게 레 망보 요르바 디니 테나기 보네 다 주바 토바게 제 프로바게 주바 토보 로보 망보 되니 양 텐데세네 켈린 세게 파양 망보 요르 단 돈나 텐데 켈린 세게 파 렉스 쵸파텔라 야 틴소스게 요르 지랑 조금 해망해마들 텐데센 켈린 제바르 와시 오픈도 조금 되는 켈린 제바르 와시 근데 얘네 로폰도 조금 지랑 조라지 아를 라위스는 마음바랑 나이 진조도 조금 지랑 조란 추바 또마 땅거리 전에 텐데 라위 요르바스 니텐도 디 커밋먼트하고 요르 텐데 야테 진소스기 요르 ini te tin so se pa le tin nga so koran so la ta chu ba ko ma mo yo bro yo re Tene telatine Koran soga Neman Kelin Tamja said Yapana Yinga Laka drip go region pa. Ti Tamsik the Daga Yura Koso Yamata Tampi Yura. O Tetso Chentos in a Teji Tenitoma J. Conchu Yura. Ti Chento Tomate, Mosaka, Yorn Dirty Boris in Landeris in Mixaki Yomare. Then is a Kelin says Yapatama Tama, I teach him Prince and the Toma Tanga Yura.
So then next we come to the Chemto Dharma offering. And actually, by the way, generally, whatever sadhana you practice, when it includes a feast offering, then the order of different practices always remains the same. So you have the offering of the remainder, and then we arouse the mind stream, and then we offer a Chemdo Dorma, and then there is a Dhamma offering and so forth. And at the end, there is this the horse dance where we turn the plate upside down. So that kind of order is always the same. So in any case, now we are at the covenant, which is the Chemdo Dorma offering. And so this Dorma is offered to those beings who have taken a commitment in the presence of the various Vajrakiliya lineage masters, the Mahasiddhas of the past of India and Tibet. There were many humans and non-human beings who took an oath, many oaths in front of these masters, of these siddhas. So in the very beginning of these teachings, we told the story of the origin of these teachings and about Guru Rinpoche in India and so forth, and then the various other siddhas who have accomplished Vajrakiliya. So many of these masters have first were challenged by various apparitional appearances and spirits and so forth. And then they were subdued and bound to a commitment, bound to oath, to protect the Vajrakiliya teachings and the practitioners in future times. So now here we are kind of reminding them of their commitment. So we are reminding them that in the past you took this commitment in the presence of this master, and now remember that. For example, in Tibet, many Mahasiddhas have bound those spirits under oath. There's all kinds of them, so there's not one certain kind. There's all kinds of different spirit beings that have been bound under oath, and it refers to all of them. So all of their commitment, samaya, is being invoked through like a reminder, reminding them, so in the past you took this promise, you took this oath in front of this siddha, this master. So it is your commitment to support us now, because the master at that time had said that in the future my followers will make dharma offerings to you, and then having made these offerings, it is your commitment to assist them, to protect them. And so now we are reminding them of their commitment by making this Chemdo Dorma offering. And so the Chemdo Dorma offering is offering, so therefore again, which is not a certain deity. We cannot say that this Dorma is made to that deity, but it really refers to all of these beings who have taken a vow, so who have been bound under oath by these past masters. So that's the Chemdo Dorma offering.
다 쳔도 값서 담보테 손의 상군도 쳔도 값서 랑기 토카는 오전 주네 tene ta yawu drupto namje jingar jingor tan tamse jin namjor jongwa xiaji yi pa chemdo jin tamje yar jin namun tar tepte pa jin doje yon ziji mazu bu churje ozer karpo tar karje yowa tabe je pa salang khupar samla tene tambo te sangu duwa kozo de chemdo jin pe tende ko soma to so jin liyon bu kapsa tene yang tenga lama la lapana yi je doje yono ko sar mazu bu churje chene jingko ko sro tene je tarka ko yoban ro je 그 제약과 그 스롤라 고정 코도 고요 삼바세네 또 마호고도 대등하게라 비지디노가 제다다 대단하다는 요 대표나다 요래
So for then there is this verse here in the Chinese sadhana on page 47 and English 65 for the covenant Chemdo Dharma offering, starting with Hong Jo, so guardians of the Buddha's word and oath-bound ones and so forth. So for that, there's also a visualization where, so for the Chemdo Dharma, you visualize that light rays emanate out from your heart, and in the presence of Vajrakumara and the previous siddhas of India and Tibet, that Chemdo, these beings promised to protect the mandala and the yogis and yoginis that possess the samayas. Then imagine that all the protectors come like summer mist with unbearable brilliance of the great glorious one. So as before, they are brought into the presence of the brilliant presence of the Heruka. White light rays stream forth like white silk, setting obstacles outside, imagining this offer the Dharma. So these are like a silken, a white silken kata, like a scarf, outside, spreading forth in white light rays outside of the practice place. This is where the offering is being made. This is where they are. So think that they are there. And then, so the next, we having made this Dharma offering, then next we come to the Dhamma offering.
다티마스 요테 보 요게 요라 균이 요래 사마데 모주 다 렌다오 예와세나 플라이 레이탄 가르스고 찌인지 레이탄 류지레 근데 익섬 균이 예레스니 근데 요한 세게 요래 간단나 보그 사코 만다와라 네데와케 요라 모주 근데 균이 요래 대개 담보되는 로보베 맘존에 보라 마페부 모니니 다 보라 페도 요부 가스니 강고스니 콤파이얼 용도 부갑스니 티마도 토케트니 좀전라암다 테네 인도선 고로름 부치마 강고 볼 페비알라 강고 즈르 니나다 고로름 부치 토토레 코조드니 가단 담레 야네 테니 코란조라 상하고 원양 고 테니 마음 발라 테니 제 코란조아제 타바 토발라 롱양 띵네 텐데세 야바제리 테네 고조케 다 상하게 추테고 소마스게 인제는 켈랑 텐데세 야바르와 데 텔로톤만 바고요 양 텔로톤만 바고서 양 랑게 토카 홍레 오전트네 티만 코티 벤데 라과 삼라스 토마 프레 티만남 소수 고려 망보 단계의 우매인 구부츠지 지바 친구 돌말랑데 제조고 레드바 켈람바상시 다티마 도마고갑스 텐데상고고와.
So for the Dhamma offering, the Dhamma goddesses are local gods and spirits of Tibet. There are 12 of them, and they're all female. And so there are basically 3 different classes. Some are gods, more divine beings. Some are Jinn, which are like more kind of violent beings, like spirits. And then there's demonic beings. And so there's 4 of each, so 12. So these are like local gods of Tibet. They're all female. And in the past, before Guru Rinpoche actually came to Tibet, when he was staying in Nepal, these Dema goddesses performed various miracles to prevent him from coming to Tibet, stop him from coming. But Guru Rinpoche is Siddha, and they obviously couldn't stop him. So instead, he bound them under oath. And then also he bestowed them secret mantra empowerment. And he also gave them a future prophecy of their attainment of liberation. And so in this way, they became protectors of the secret mantra Dharma teachings. So it is to these Dema goddesses that this offering is being made. And so when offering the Dema Dharma, again, you think that light rays radiate from the hung at your heart, which invites the Dema goddesses and their retinues to the place before you. By offering this Dharma, the Dema goddesses and their many individual retinues show warm respect and are greatly delighted. And they take up the Dharma and partake in it, and imagine that they also agree to perform whatever activities you entrust to them.
Drupala parchesi pe nuzi nam rawang mi pa kokwe tento to yon rap ngomyok do ne ningpe mexan karpe payang gomunu pala te tento parchin dorje yon khorje je dorji lo lang chen tro dongbe si pa sombo yo yom yong she to yu par samo se tende me pasen teni tata tonin de malo go yorwa.
So then you read that verse on page 47 in the Chinese on the bottom, English 65 on the bottom, and at the end you bring out the Dharma, offer the Dharma. So then after the Chemdo and the Dema Dharma offering, which is the outer and the inner, next is a suppression beneath the Dharma vessel. And that begins again with summoning and drawing in. 66 in English, I guess it's like, must be 48 in the Chinese. And so here, after having made this offering, the Dharma plate is turned upside down. And so this is how you visualize. So after you do the summoning and drawing in, when you turn the Dharma vessel upside down, imagine that all those that cause obstacles to practice and harm are helplessly summoned beneath it. Above the vessel, imagine that an upside down Mount Meru suppresses them so that they cannot move for an aeon. Above that, imagine that the great and glorious Vajrakiliya and retinue sing Vajra songs and strike a dance so that all 3 realms of the universe tremble and shake.
Hello?
Yeah.
Otoryon bu pyogun yok tane nangyun ruptab jeba ina sedrup je yoreze sedrupa tene tata sandrup le te yo mare wa sedrup te yungu yo mare Teni ti tsam ra wala nga zo ge yang go ten nam ju lo ge yo wa. Yang go de da che dang yang gu ya ge chu wa re de ju ma zo de na de nam ju lo ge yo ti chen go ge chu de re.
Then at the end of the suppression below the Dharma vessel, normally in the extensive, the longer sadhana, at this place there would be a longevity, a long life practice, but also that is not in the short secret accomplishment. So instead of that, we are usually reciting the summoning of good fortune and Zambala practice here in order to summon in life and abundance, fortune. So that is what we normally recite, and that is instead of the longevity practice.
Teni ti ji ni ta ji cho lo to cha wa re. Ji cho de ta ta nga zo ho dan ni ge zak je ge. Nan de ne ji cho chu tu ndo du ne se sa tre. Nam ju tang drup chin min be kap su ta ta di jing ko la jin be se ya tang de so de go yo ma re wa. Jing ko yo ma re wa. Ma no so so nyam ne se pe kap su de go yo ma jing ko le sim ba de so go yo ma re. Teni jo ge ta ji cho de la to cha wa re.
So then at the end, so after this, we come to the actual end, the conclusion of the practice, which is in the Chinese, then going all the way back to page 21. And in English, it is on page 34, 33, sorry, page 33. And that is because now when you're practicing on your own, not in a drupchen now, not in a group retreat practice, you don't need to practice the bringing down of blessings onto the mandala, because you do not actually have a mandala when you do the practice on your own. So when you do the practice on your own, then at this point you go to the kind of beginning of the text on page 33 and 21, which is the concluding stages of the practice.
Tā tī kāp kūñ chūpa, tē tāngrāng chūpa sā kā yō rī. Tāngrāng sā na tā kār sā kā rō, tā chī yō kē. Tū jē chē shī wā kūñ chūpa rō rī wā. Tēn chūpa tē. Tēnī tē jī tēnī chūpa tāng tū pā. Tē jī tēnī zū sōr chī. Zū sōr tē nī kio tā nī. Yē nē dā tāng yē mī tōng jē kī mā rīng kū pē. Sik tōng tē pē sā.
It's gone again. Yeah. The chesong, the susur gichela tini chesong, tini yene tane. Hello.
Zū sōr kūñ yō tā nā. Tēnī yāng yī jā. Yedā tō tsā sōng sōng kāchāng nīmbā kī jīwa nā yīn sī lōgu dōwa. Tī tōndā yāng kāchāng kōni lāb tsā wā rī jīkpā rī.
So then at the end we are making offerings, which is like in an offering of gratitude. So we are really saying like thank you. We are grateful for the blessings. So we are making a concluding offering of gratitude. And so wait a minute. So we are on page. And then we come to page number 31 in the English. So after we make this offering, and then we make praise, and then next we confess mistakes. So we request forgiveness. So although primordially we are united indivisibly, and so forth, which in English is on page 31. I think Chinese is 21. And then after that, like before, like after the mantra recitation, we again recite the Sanskrit vowels and the consonants and the 100-syllable mantra and the essence of dependency each 3 times.
Ti tunda kachang koni lab chapa yimba gijin.
We already discussed the meaning of that after the mantra recitation of these mantras.
Yene ti jini shodan ni ka chaksan bana tane ta te tin yok se yore. Tin yok se de ta la tu so pa durum ro se yomba kapsa yehi pa la tu so tin dang ro je to tin dang ye me se na tane yok so san ba se. Ta tin se na kunda nanda thangka nanda pa nanda kang ta na ya phwa bo mare yedam ko la ka yang ro ga tin ji yo ne te ga ne la hi pa te tin dang ye me chen yo ko yo san ba se ne da la go re nda ne tin dang ning je to ko se de yo ne ja chai ge jin do wa su ta ti dam ben ze so ha as ni ka se de sang go.
And then next on the next page is a request to remain together with the representation. So I think 22 in the Chinese and then 33 in the English. So it says basically remaining in samsaric existence together with this support and so on. So it could be any support that represents the deity, like a statue or a tanka or a picture. In this image, we imagine that the deity merges with this image indivisibly and then remains there. So it's not just, this verse is not just for Vajrakiliya, but any Yidam deity that you practice can be merged within this support in front of you, because ultimately the wisdom beings are actually indivisible. So when you recite this verse here, think that all the wisdom beings abide within there, remain within there indivisibly.
Tene ti ji ni ta durum sin go. Durum den di ta san ro ko kap so na Dwa sa la tam ji pa me ba ngang la ya pa. Tende je kan de sa re. Drup tap je pa ta wa na tene je ramba yin do san ni na la cho do. Tene ye dam ko la te ya ramba yin do wo de hyun sa won la tem. Sa won hon de ramba yin do wo ni a me ba se ko zo nam jön chi hien do ya yo te no song yo re. Yin na san ro na te mo do che ta pa ko. Me ba ngang la ya ne tene te zo ram ko ngang la. Nyam ya se ne tene.
I'm assuming that was all Kapilama said. Then in the end, there is the dissolution stage. And so actually in the secret accomplishment practice, there's no real dissolution process, but we directly visualize, we directly let go of the deity and place the mind into a non-conceptual state and then rest there. But in the extensive, the longer sadhana, we actually go through stages of dissolution where we first visualize the outer parts of the mandala dissolving into the inner parts, and then the inner parts into the deity, and then the deity itself dissolves into light, and then this light dissolves gradually into the seed syllable Hong at the heart, which then also in stages dissolves into light and then completely disappears into a non-referential, non-conceptual state. So this is how we perform the dissolution normally. But here in the secret accomplishment sadhana, that is not mentioned. Here we directly go to rest in this non-conceptual, non-referential state. And then being without concepts, we then simply abide within the completion stage. Oh my goodness, that not patut chisong.
yeah, Dana Pacha Chart.
Seems the internet is not. That targore kosong what sinun chisong internet.
Oh, that then the Yan Tapacha Chart, Tijin, Hoa, the Yore, Tahiti, Yore. The internet.
So then at the end, we are going to, there's just a dedication and words of auspiciousness. Which basically concludes the text. So the internet is unfortunately not so good here, but basically the text is finished.
Go away.
Kodo.
What that then the Tijin, Hoa, Tijila, Tahiti, the Yoke. Da Namjun Drupchin Dao and at the Chuyin the Nusal and the Super Capsule. Then Tatan Simayang Kahiki Song Yuri. That the Chunjon on the Yua. Hoda.
Koda.
Da Timothy, Tatan Timothy Larab, Drain Ta swims in the younger Yuri on the wa. Rap Purpan Gurata. Chapa. Hoda. Marmy Sarki. Awesome Zimpa. Singing in Sarwa, Nyamgawa, Tribzang Tarwa Lasupan Yongsi. Drain the Rambochi Land Simpa Mipata, Nida Lula Charwatan, Nida Lag Zonwatan, Nida Le Humpa, Dar Sarwatan, Dong Bupa Lasupan, Misi. Kama ina Metong Humbulan to Simpatan, Namkalan Purwatan, O Chuchimbo La Garwatan, Suncha Topa, Mipa, Tang. Nyam Pading Tiwalan Sopa Zongo, Sitatin Sono Tenita, Taya Wori Song Yedua. Tenit Re, Tatan and Joke Top Song.
Yeah, so then after dedications and prayers of auspiciousness at the end, there are some instructions on signs that one can look out for, signs of accomplishment. So there's basically which appear in dreams and so on, and these are is higher, intermediate, and lesser signs. And so normally that is when we practice in a drupchen really in an authentic way, then it is that at such a time one looks for certain signs in one's dreams that could be taken as an indicator of an accomplishment. And so it says that so the highest signs are, so in one's dreams, that the gila moves and jumps about, the rakta does not decline but wafts forth, the butter lamps are bright and have 3 lassos, samadhi is clear, experiences are blissful, pleasant smells emanate, and so forth. And the intermediate signs are that you dream of going to an island of jewels, the sun and moon appear in your body, you hold the sun and moon in your hands, you ride the sun and moon, flags are raised, conch shell horns are blown, and other such dreams. The lesser signs are that you dream of traveling to an island of blue flowers, flying in the sky, crossing a great body of water, holding a weapon, and other such heroic dreams. So when these signs occur in a dream, they're considered to be auspicious. And so anyways, this completes today the teachings on Vajrakiliya.
Thank you, everybody. We do dedication prayers together. O Samdaya Tamje Panye, Tomnani Bedana Pose de Jagana Jabalon Rova, Ziben Solen Rova Rova Yo. Lama Gungang Zawa Sowan Den Joda Gozeren wa Sowan Tile Dain Jar Sowan De Lama Dan Rawa Me Basen Jelo Yamba Bave Jadan Jimba Dan Kundo Zambo Tayan Tegen De Deda Kunde Jiso Dalo Gewan Deda Tamje Rabdo Mo Sanje Kosan Nipe Salatan Jinim Jadim Besalat Gendem Sindu Besalat Jadam Jamolan Rubayo Dadam Kunde Tam Jeje Dusam Da Sabatan Yube Gebe Tawandi Dadan Sinjin Danjen Yudo Lana Meba Yandaba Zupe Sanjo Rumbo Jetopa Shiza Kunze Kunjen Chuje Demra Nila Wantong Degomba Renjen Parje Dimba Zimdeba Yedo Tuzong Gomben Zenjo Dimbe Pajo Lame Yabeden Dinjen Jivu Saden Yong Laja Dimbe Jimda Ngadang Yoa Dimba Yare Nebeta Yo. Okay, finished. Teaching finished.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama. Thank you, Ina.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, Lama. Thank you, Ina. Good night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Thank you.